Hi, welcome back everyone. And today we're going to finish up with our plantain infusion and we're going to go ahead and make our salve. So let me go over real quick what you're going to need. Besides our infused oil that we made the other day, it's still working. Beautiful color, beautiful color. You're also going to need some type of container with some type of sieve. Now, if you don't have a fine mesh sieve like this, you can use a colander because you're going to also use some kind of cheesecloth or thin cloth. Now, my cheesecloth is pretty thick weaved. If you have the stuff that you typically find at the store, it's usually really open weave, so you may have to double, triple it up. But anything like that that can fit, this is just my little setup that I tend to use, and this works really well for me. So you're also going to need either a double boiler, or you're going to have to watch very carefully to have a little pot on to be able to melt the beeswax. Now, beeswax, you want to be very careful, heat it up very slowly, but you can also use a little double boiler if you have one. That's even safer. You will need some beeswax. So you're only going to need about ½ an ounce for how much we're making today, but obviously that may vary depending on exactly how thick you want your salve to be and how much you decide to make. So the optional things that you can use is you can use a little bit of jojoba oil or any other kind of extra oil that you may want to use. You're going to end up with what I'm doing today. You're going to end up making 4 ounces of salve. So we're going to use 4 ounces of oil. So I just have this here so that I can make up any difference in my infused oil. And then if you think that it's going to be a little while that you're going to, before you end up using all of the salve that you're making, you'll want to add a little bit of vitamin E to it. Now, vitamin E just helps the oil to last a little bit longer. You can just use a couple of the capsules, just poke a little hole in them, squirt them in. Okay, that'll just help it last a little bit longer. You don't have to use this. You can also put it in the refrigerator if you know that it's going to be a long time. The other thing I like to add is, because I use this as an antiseptic and a drawing device, so I like to add a little bit of tea tree oil, and then just to help it not smell quite so medicinal, I add a little bit of lavender. So it's just a few drops, but you can really use any essential oils that you want, or you can just leave it completely out. It's fine. The last thing that you'll need is a container to put it in. I love these little jars. I just picked them up at Walmart, I think, and they're a perfect size for my family. You may want to use smaller ones depending on the size for your family and how quickly you go through it. I've also used little tiny 2-ounce jars that I've gotten, and those are convenient. You can put a bunch of them in the refrigerator or freezer and then pull them out whenever you need them. Scraping / measuring things to help get things through, and I think that's all we'll need today. So let's start making our salve. So first we're going to start off by placing the cheesecloth on top of our sieve over our container, and we're going to open up this beautiful infusion. Man, it is so gorgeous. I just love the color. I can get it off. It can be stuck because of the heat. There we go. See? Oh, that color is just amazing. And then we just go ahead and pour it in. It can be a bit messy, but look at the color. It is really, really rich. Look at that. Now, I will admit to you, I forgot to turn it off this morning. So this went until lunch. That happens a lot around here a little bit. We won't admit how often, but occasionally we kind of forget about things when they're dehydrating or infusing, and they can get a little extra strong. So this actually went from last night. Let's see. I'm trying to remember exactly what time it was. Well, in the evening. It went overnight and all the way until lunch today. So not quite 24 hours, probably 16, 18 hours. So there we go. Then to just get all of that out, you can just take this and really squeeze it. Now, if you really don't like any specks in your oil, you can really refine this even further. I don't mind so much, and it's just not worth the extra work for me. So go ahead, squeeze. Can use just the measurements. Oil is so close to the same. I mean, it's a little bit lighter than water, but it's pretty close, and it's close enough for this. So what I'm going to do here is turn on my scale. This is my little pot that I'm going to melt my beeswax in. I'm going to pour this in here, and I want 4 ounces, and I'm going to have more than 4 ounces. So I'll just adjust. That's 4.4 ounces. I'm still going to stick with my typical ratio. My typical ratio goes for every 8 ounces of oil, I use 1 ounce of beeswax. Now, so since I'm making 4 ounces, so I'm going to go ahead and take this on up to 5 ounces just to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to add my beeswax. Okay, tear this. So because of this, how much I'm using, I'm going to end up adding half plus 0.15, so 0.63 according to my scale. I love these little beads. They're so much easier to measure. I mean, you can buy blocks of beeswax, and my goodness, if you have your own bees, oh, good, I am jealous. But you can buy blocks and grade it, and so if you do that, then obviously you're going to grate and then add. But this is very convenient for people like me who don't have bees, since I'm allergic, and who have that. Okay, this could be a little bit more, but that's okay. Again, the proportions of this is just a guideline. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take this to the stove, to my burner, and I'm going to very slowly warm it up, and we'll see when I get back and everything is melted. All right, I'm back, and as you can see, my beeswax is fully melted. Now, stay very close to this. It does not take long for those little beads to melt, and you do not want to overheat this. You really want to stay on top of it, and as they start to melt and go away, it'll happen very quickly. Just pull it off the heat right then. You don't need to keep it on the heat until they're fully melted. They will continue to melt after that fact. So a little trick though is everybody has different textures that they like in their salve. So I actually like mine just a bit on the softer side, because if you're in Maine, 9 months out of the year, it's pretty cool. So I don't want it to be as hard as a rock, especially in the middle of the winter. So I tend to go for a little bit softer, but if you live in, say, Texas, you may want to put a little bit more beeswax in your salve. Otherwise, it may turn rather liquidy on you, and you're more rubbing like a clear oil on your skin rather than a salve. So it really depends on your environment and what type of thickness and that you want and desire because of your heat index. So a trick: if you put a metal spoon into your freezer, which I just happen to have a freezer right here next to my foaming area, and then you take a little bit of your oil and drip it onto your spoon. Stir it around just a little bit. It will go ahead and solidify for you. See, just like that. And then you could check the texture and see. So that's perfect for me. I like it to where it just takes a tiny bit of effort to pull that up. And like I said, living in Texas, that might be too liquidy for you. Okay, you may want it more like a solid bar so that it can withstand the heat. But that's what I like right there. So I'm good with this. And so now that it has, this actually happened a few minutes ago, I can go ahead and I can go ahead and pour it, put my essential oils in, my vitamin E, and go ahead and jar it. And that's really all it takes. I just put a few drops of vitamin E in, stir that around. I would really only recommend adding about 10 to 20 drops of essential oils, depending on exactly what you like. I'm going to put in about 5 each. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6, because I went a little over 4. But you really don't want a lot. I mean, it's just for the scent. Although the tea tree oil does have some antibacterial properties to it. So it does give it a medicinal smell too. So I usually and then I just add a few lavender to make it smell a little nicer for my kids. So plantain. So while I'm bottling this, let's talk a little bit about why this is a good salve to have around. Plantain has an organic chemical in it, and I hope I'm going to say this correctly. It's called aucubin. Aucubin is an iridoid glycoside, and yes, I had to look that up. I do not have all that information in my brain, but basically it's a defense mechanism, and it's really interesting. I'll post a couple of links underneath this video to some of the research, but it's a defense mechanism. Plants and insects use it to defend themselves against fungal infections and bacterial infections. And there's been all kinds of research done on these iridoid glycosides. And it's just amazing at what God has provided for us, even in just our herbs and and even insects. And they have shown that these things can transfer from plants to animals. There's a caterpillar or worm that eats on the catalpa tree, and these iridoid glycosides are transferred from the catalpa tree to the caterpillar, who then transforms and pupates into the adult insects. It's still there even after it pupates. So it's amazing, and that's one of the reasons I love herbal remedies. But as you can see, this is my salve. We'll use it anytime we have any kind of nasty looking cut. It's also good for bee stings. It helps draw out those toxins and helps defend against those compounds. So plantain salve, make yourself some. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think that it was a lot of fun to make this with you, and I hope that we'll be seeing more of you in the future. If you like what you see, subscribe. I'll be doing some more. This is fun. Talk to you later. Bye.